subscribe.
The Angry Ops Guy podcast, featuring Mike and Christina, pushing the ops machine forward no matter the grind. Real talk, real stories, and hard truths from two battle-tested pros.
We're back. Welcome to the Angry Ops Guy podcast. Christina, how are you, my friend?
It's funny because I said to you that it's November. It's supposed to feel this way. But like there is something about November that I was looking back at I was looking back at numbers. I was looking back at like staff like that have come and gone. Like November for some reason is always this heightened. I feel like clients want stuff before, like it's like all of a sudden the end of the year. Clients are on our asses. There are staff who are probably feeling maybe burnt out, maybe feeling a little bit sensitive as they go into the holiday season. You layer that on. I am trying my best to be. I am one. You probably know this about me. I'm very good at compartmentalizing. When I am at work, I am at work. But not all people can do that. So trying to recognize that November brings family drama and anxiety and things as people prepare for holidays, because not everyone has a lovely holiday. So I just feel like November in ops is interesting.
Sucks.
Well, on the positive, because I try to be the positive.
And you got to compliment my negative.
You're probably onboarding more. Like we typically like onboard. We have lots of prospects and sales right? Like people are looking at the new year. They're looking, so it's like it's busy in the ways you want it to be busy in the ways you don't want it to be busy, and then like those things collide and like it's called November.
Yeah, and what is with customers thinking that December 24th has to be a launch date? Like, why does Christmas have to be a milestone for getting projects done? Like, okay, it's the end of the year, you want to start the new year and so forth, but then you don't get the quote approved November 5th and say we got to go live December 24th. Like, why do digital marketers or web developers, which we are, why does that have to be our pressure? To your point before the Christmas, you're so right. This time of the year, doesn't matter how much vacation your team has taken, the team is burnt out by now. It is, you are in the 11th month of the year in digital marketing. Like, this is when the battery is low. And to your point, everybody takes the summer off. I'm talking customers, right? It's the vacation time. There's no budget. Everybody's loosey goose, half days. And then as soon as that Labor Day hits here in Canada, budgets reload and let's go, go, go. But then it's a slow adoption, right? Because the kids go back to school in September. Parents are trying to get back into the proper work routine because they don't have the kids from summer vacation anymore. You're one of those. So you got to ramp up your gears, and Peter's got to ramp up his gears again. And then October is historically a busy, like you said, a month. And now, like November 1st hits, or now even November 14th, as we're recording, and it's like you're against the clock now before Christmas holidays. And then it's, to your point, it's like, where is this all coming from now? And also, how do we, kind of plays into a theme that we want to talk about today, is how do we protect our agencies? How do we protect our staff so that we're not being dictated the pace of what we can put out, while ensuring the integrity for the client, but the integrity of our team's sanity? Because we got a queue and it can only do so much. And I'm sure, Christina, you and your team and myself and our team have worked some wee hours in Christmas time trying to get things done. And it's a slog.
It is. I mean, it's hard to protect time, especially when we eat what we kill. So, of course, I want, as the business owner now talking, it's like, of course, I want billables high at the end of the year. Yeah. Of course, I want that revenue. Of course, it took me a very long time. And I would say I am not totally there yet, even today, where it is easy to say no, say goodbye, and move on from clients. Like we both have probably some epic stories around this, but Even today, when we were chatting with Emily beforehand, she was talking about a bit of a headache that's on her hands. As her ops gal, I know exactly what she is talking about. I know that issue well, and I have verbalized a few times at leadership meetings that I would like to be able to say goodbye. From an operational perspective, okay, this one person is sucking the time and the life out of one of my best people. And how do I protect her? But then you go, okay, but like it's this much a month, and okay, but maybe by the end of the year, like there are right times, but it always feels hard. It's gross, right? It's like breaking up with someone. No one likes doing that.
No, and like you said, you used kind of the analogy, we eat what we kill. Yeah, as whether you're an agency owner or whether you're an ops person, and maybe you're incentivized with sales as an add-on for commission structure or upselling or whatever else, you're always enamored with the opportunity, right? And we are all businesses that depend on basically every opportunity that comes in to try to close it. And so you get caught up in the, like you said, Christina, it's like, I need that revenue to be high. We all know that January and February, no matter where you are in the world, is slow. People have that Christmas blues. The credit cards are max. Nobody wants to spend. It's the gray coldness of winter, at least where we are here. And so, yeah, revenue is going to take a shit January, February. So it's kind of like if let's say for example October through December is your Q1, you got to come strong because Q2 is going to be a battle to just
Yeah.
continue to climb. But at what I'm trying to say is at what cost? Like you're saying, is what cost to the team, what cost to the agency? Are these people really a good fit? And ultimately, what we're kind of moving into here, Christina, is like, how do we and when do we have to, with confidence, say no?
Yeah.
So let's expand upon that. And what does no mean? And it's funny is when I say to you, Christina, no is a positive, what does that mean to you based on your experience running CIPR, but also as an ops manager? um, have you had troubles navigating the no in the past? Do you still have troubles navigating the no? Like, do you have the bird on each shoulder saying, say no, don't say no, we need this, don't say no? How have you kind of navigated that with your 20 plus years of navigating this and how you interact with customers coming to CIPR?
20 plus years. I'm so old now. So wise and mature. I feel like, I don't know. I I think it is the role of the ops person or the integrator to be able to tell what is possible. So no has got to become a part of your vocabulary very quickly. When I learned, again, EOS needs to come on and be a sponsor here because we talk about it every week. But when I learned about integrator versus visionary and really started to plug into, oh, this is my role, is when it became real clear to me that like I'm the person in the organization that's supposed to be saying no. No to that contract, no to that price on a contract, no to that person. That is my role. I mean, from a personality perspective, if you know me, I'm fine with saying no. And I have to deal with it. Again, the business owner hat, I struggled with it for a long time because, again, dollar bills speak, right? And
Leads literally don't grow on trees, right? Like,
yeah,
no, nobody in digital marketing, I'm sorry, has a predictable inbound lead generation. Nobody can tell us, oh, I get 12 a week. No, you don't.
no,
So again, if you have 1 to 3 coming in a week, you're trying to close 2 of those 3 because again, right, the opportunity is there.
yeah,
And digital marketing is ebbs and flows. It is not finite of how work comes in, right? You have good months, you have good quarters, you get a good 2 weeks. I'm sure you're Peter being your direct salesperson, right? Like he gets in a mojo and it's like 90, and then all of a sudden it's like a funeral. in the sense of just opportunity. So you got to ride the ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And again, we're all sharks, right? We're in blood infested waters trying to hunt, and we better have a good closing rate. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to sustain our growth trajectory. But growth is not everything, because, like you said, we talked about just November blues for burnout and stuff. But if you bring in bad opportunities, which means stuff that you cannot facilitate, or stuff that doesn't align with your core values of how you and the client have to mutually work together, or if also it's a fact that the client's an asshole. And how many times have you seen that? Like, you say you get a gut feeling in the discovery call saying, wow, this person's a narcissist. This person is arrogant. This person was talking to me like they know my business when I'm asking questions about their business. You got to look at those red flags, and with experience, and again, I think the word is confidence
Yeah.
to say no. It can actually be way better than that $3,000 a month that could be perceived as value. But what's better is to protect your agency, protect your team, and project the next 12 months of what your team is working on, because toxicity is a mean thing in digital marketing teams, and we all wear multiple hats. So we better be able to do what we do, because the job is hard enough as it is, and toxicity has no place, especially when it comes to clients that ultimately need you, are perceived willing to pay you, but then ultimately they want to make your life harder. That's not the agreement we signed up for.
No.
You're allowed to make us accountable. You're not allowed to dictate what we do. You need us as equally as we want you. And I think that's really important to reflect, is we're the ones that are desired. We solve the challenges. We solve whatever the issue is that they have ultimately come to us asking for help for. So let's start with core values, and just how important is to make sure that is part of your evaluation process of what I like to call, is it a good fit? So when I met CIPR, this is going back a few years ago, when you made it down from Alberta to Toronto regionals, and you had a wonderful presentation with you and Peter about kind of your onboarding process.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was further articulated in the Punta Cana ops track. But one thing I realized is you had a really good process. But one thing that still sticks out to me is I remember slides about core values. And that was very key, of like a first assessment for you and Peter of, does this align with who we are? So maybe you could take that over and share with us just your thought process of why you bake that in, but also why you reflect as an owner, why it's so important as the first step of the evaluation versus the opportunity.
Yeah. After many clients and having this kind of reactionary approach to contract signs, start the work, go, go, go. Here's what sales guy says. We did that for years.
Mhm.
And it didn't work, right? I was as the person who was doing the work, I was failing a lot of the time, because whatever the sales guy had promised, I wasn't obviously aligned or delivering. There was a disconnect. And I think that happens often. I think it happens to ICs when it's, the tag team. We see a lot of that husband wife team, one's selling, one's grinding it out. I think you see it when it comes to the IC that's selling and then bringing in a supplier to help deliver. I think we see it in cases like, even in your shop, right? You've got people feeding leads and it's not necessarily aligned. So we took the step back and said, how do we make sure that when we bring people in, they understand, one, like, it's not magic. You sign the contract at 9 a.m. I can't start it at 12 p.m. even though Peter says I can.
Yeah, gotta love those. And by the way, that's another visionary thing. Oh, we can start tomorrow. No, the integrator knows we have a queue, and the queue's already backlogged. And so, no, that client that just literally walked in and you sold him something cannot start tomorrow. There's a proper kickoff, there's a proper onboarding. It has to be scheduled. So, first takeaway for the network of -4 people that follow us: do not commit to reactionary things on the fly. It's not fair to your team. It's not fair to the health of your agency. Everything gets scheduled, and that's the first form of respect that has to be established so that we dictate our pace. Clients need us, they're paying us, but clients do not dictate the pace of our queue. If you get into that trap of letting them dictate, you'll never get out of it.
No.
And then that's why you're up all hours of the night responding to emails. That's why they will call you in the morning, say, need this in 10 minutes, because now they expect it.
Yeah.
You have to establish the line in the sand saying, this is how we work. Because right
It's
away,
really,
if that doesn't work for them, that's the first red flag to say this is not a good fit.
yeah. That's your first no.
Or
That's your first no.
that's your
No.
first no. And then from there, also, that could influence how you quote it. Because if you assess that the client needs hand holding, more immediacy or urgency, then you should be quoting proportionate to that, because they've also defined what their expectations are. So if your response time is 24 to 48 hours for a common request, and they're like, that ain't going to jive with me, then you're not giving them their standard hourly rate. You're giving them an hourly rate with a rush fee. You're giving them an hourly rate that is scaled up proportionally to have the ability to bump the line. And I think, I'll give a first example, because, we've had clients that drop something in our lap and want the immediacy.
Right.
And we used to just take it and do it. That said, what happened with that is, again, what happens to all the other valuable clients in your queue that are paying the same amount of money, but now got bumped down 3 tiers because Jimmy decided that he deserves priority? So the only way Jimmy, if Jimmy's the client, gets priority is Jimmy pays for priority,
Yeah.
and he's going to pay handily for priority, because the proper response is not, well, why are you so expensive? And that's not the hourly rate you told me. It's because I have to move 5 other projects down the pipeline and move all those timelines out to accommodate your urgency.
Yeah.
And so that is billable, and you pay a priority rate versus a standard rate. And what will happen most of the times are, you put a rush fee or you put an increased rate in front of them, they will naturally back off and just comply with what your standard SLAs are and what your standard rate is. But you give them an inch, and they will take a mile and a half. 100%. And I have seen that so much. So again, learnings, because we're all going to be about learnings today. Rush fees should absolutely be part of your business dynamic, and you should have them at your disposal. And what that means, is it a flat rate? Do you have to wake developers up at suppliers? All of those factors have to go into what the cost to the customer is, because these are not normal standards of how we operate during the business day. So right away, if they're not going to comply with those type of requirements, there's your second red flag, because you're giving them options and they're still being stubborn. Then see them out of your boardroom or out of your office, because again, it will be an uphill fight for the entire duration of that relationship, and you will never win, because they will not meet you in the middle. And that's what we go back to why core values are so important, to establish, or to at least educate and make them aware, because no different than your team in EOS. If you don't align with the core values, then how will you ever work a positive relationship together? Remember, we went back and talked about psychometric testing and how Peter put Christina through it for the sense of their relationship. What he was doing was basically assessing her personality. But if you want to kind of spin it in a weird way, it's core values. If those things didn't align, then Peter wasn't going to ask you for that second date.
Yeah.
But because your core values were either mutual or aligned enough to meet each other and complement each other, look at the life you have together. It's the same with a customer.
Well, and it's the same. So, I mean, great segue. So cue the deck, the onboarding process. So we will now bring someone in. So, okay, I'm going to backtrack a minute here. We, and by we, I mean I, have now told sales, i.e. Peter, that Christina onboards on Tuesdays, operations onboards on Tuesdays. One really great sales tactic, because if Peter knows someone's about to sign and it's Monday, he can say, Christina onboards tomorrow. If you don't get this in right away, you're going to be now another week out until she onboards you again. So give a date to the sales team, to the visionary, to whoever's doing the selling, and say, this is when we're going to onboard. This is the process. This is how it works. This is when they're going to get into the queue. Two, then they hear from me, they get scheduled a time. But the other piece that came out of the fast to deliver came oh, I don't remember that in the contract. I don't remember those rush fees in the contract. I don't remember Peter saying that. I had one client who was so funny. Brad was project managing them. So we're sitting in the boardroom of this client, cool client. They're not a client anymore, partly because of this. But we're talking about the plan. It was a PR retainer. I think there was social media involved with it, so we're talking about the content, talking about the pitching, going through it. And then the boss, I don't remember what his title was, but the guy who signed the contract, his team's in there, he's in there, and he goes, yeah, but like, when do we get to be #1 on Google? And I remember Brad and I looking at each other and going, well, this isn't a fucking SEO contract. This is not what we've sold them. But somewhere in the sales process, something was said about, okay, let's pedal this back and just go, okay, this is what we're doing. So for me, it was like, okay, I don't know what the visionary has said to you, but this is the contract you've signed. So it is like one of the first things I do in an onboarding process is bring the contract up again and just go, just want to make sure, okay, this is our timeline, this is our process. You've bought XYZ, or you've bought A, and phase 2 would be B, and you got to pay more for C. I lay it out because now it's not, charismatic salesperson. It's like girl that needs to get shit done and is driving the
Yes.
business. And I can say, ABC, this is in your contract. This is what this costs. This is the first invoice you've seen. This is what you're paying me today. This is what happens next. To bring everyone together and to get some clarity. The other piece of that is if that, person who signed the contract is not going to project manage it, I want their project manager in that meeting too. Because I've also faced issues where, and we still have a client like this, built a great relationship, but sales director signs a contract, gets excited about what the visionary has to say, the sales guy has to say, all of a sudden sends a signed contract to his junior and goes, here, you're going to work with this agency now to deliver all these things. Well, put yourself in this guy's shoes. This poor guy, he's been a lone wolf. He thinks he's doing a great job. He doesn't necessarily see the agency as, hey, buddy, I'm giving you some help. He sees it as, oh, fuck, my job is at risk because now all these real smart people are coming in. Now I've got to build a relationship over here. So, the kickoff is also the like align on the contract, and like if there's any need to like pass the torch, give the blessing, whatever happens in that meeting on the CIPR side and on the client side.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with what you have to say because it's so important to also ensure. So again, we're going a little bit of a different direction you're talking about now into the kickoff process of how to make sure the clients align. But you need to make sure that from the sales process to the ops process, the transition is smooth. Because again, like, to pick on your Peter, he has a very defined approach of how he does stuff. He's a sales guy. His job is to sell. He creates a narrative, he paints a vision, he gets people excited because he needs that signature on the contract.
Yeah.
But like Christina said, she's the ops gal that's got to get it done. So just because Peter's bringing a coffee and smiling and leaning in and whatever else, ops people like, okay, this is what we got to do. I'm under an incredible timeline and we got to get moving, and this is how. So you got to set the rules, you got to set the table, but you also can't be divided with what Peter said and promised and did. So I'll tell you an example because this is where the humor comes into some of these things, but this is not a humorous one. I shared this in the Punta Cana ops track that I presented. I was doing one about successful client onboarding, and I put myself in the line of fire giving a real example of what happened. And the example was that my Peter had at the time, this is going back, oh God, 5, 6 years ago at least, but he worked 3 to 4 months to sign on a new website project and worked with the lady and stuff. And at that time, we didn't have transcribing, didn't have recordings. So Peter used to work with yellow legal paper and he would write notes. And that was the notes in the manual folders that were at the office. And that's what I got when it came over to ops. So he worked all of this, but Peter's handwriting is Peter's handwriting. I can understand it because I've been with him 15 years, but it's short form because what he can get captured.
Right.
And so for an ops person, it drives us nuts because it's not enough. So it's, oh, I sold this $10,000 project and it needs 25 pages and it needs this and this and this. And here's the notes I got. And the notes literally say they do this and she services that. And there's this. And I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do this? So we went in the client comes in, first day kickoff. I walk in all dressed to the nines, make an impression. Hi, I'm so and so. And I say, okay, now Peter had his process with you, but I have my process and I need to learn more about your business so that we can put this kick-ass website together. And I've done that process a million times. And she put her back against the chair and she was angry. And I hadn't been in there more than 5 minutes. And it was, Mike, I've told Peter everything. I'm not doing this again with you. So, taken aback a little bit, I explained. She complied. We did it. But the point being with the story is right away there, I lost the client.
Yeah.
And then that project sat in developmental hell for 4 years. And
Ugh.
everything I did, everything I asked, everything I tried to suggest was met with contention. Now, the takeaways with that is number one, our transition process between sales and production was not as seamless as it could have been. We understood at that time that Peter had to be in the first meetings if he was the primary salesperson, because that's where the relationship and the trust was building, was with Peter. This lady that I'm referencing in the example didn't know me from a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
So I was new. She's scared. She's timid. Am I an asshole? Am I educated? Am I just some junior? She built the rapport with Peter.
Yeah.
Peter wasn't there in the first meeting. So right there, the familiarity wasn't there. And now, hi, I'm Mike. I'm new. So that was number one. Number two with this was, if we would have vetted the opportunity better, we would have realized that the person's personality, her tone, and her expectation did not align with what we sold, but also the core values of our agency. And it turned into just one of those projects that keeps you up. And like I said, 4 years until I could get it live. And even the day I got it live, I got shouted at by the person because she was frustrated because she didn't understand she had to pay for something that was clearly in the document that was, you pay for your own hosting and I will launch it for you. And I literally, on the day of launch, I got shouted at. But it was such a learning experience of ensuring, number one, should we have said no? How do we vet people better? Because again, we vetted the opportunity and the opportunity was attractive. I want SEO. I want PPC. I need a brand new website. Oh my God, this is going to be a retainer, phase one, phase two. This is a great deal. It's local. We need it. And no fault of our Peter. He looked at it objectively because his job is to grow revenue for our business.
Yeah.
But what we didn't do is say, is this person a good fit to work with us? And I realized it 30 minutes in with the combativeness that it wasn't. And then you think about transitioning it to other team members where they have to do this and that. And now they're on an uphill fight because this person is just angry at us for God knows what reason. That toxicity is not, there is not $10,000 in the world that justifies that type of stress and fatigue, to the point where our team, as the years went on, it was like eye rolling. Oh, they're back. Oh, this is going to be met with frustration. Oh, I'm going to get yelled at for this. And now the team is demoralized working on a project, and you can't have that in ops. Not every project is fun. Some of the shit we do is boring. Some of the industries we work for are just boring. But you got to put your best foot forward to produce a kick-ass project so that you can roll recurring marketing. And if your team is demoralized working for somebody, you're never, imagine if you do get them on recurring, it compounds even more stress, because now that person's not going. That's the beauty in web development, right? Even if you have a bad apple, there's a start and an end. If you're on a recurring contract, that person's coming at you every week, every month, for however long they choose to continue to pay. And that's just stress. And you don't need a marketing manager. You don't need a social media manager going, oh, I'm dreading this call. I don't want to be on this call. I got anxiety for this call. And then again, a Christina or a Mike has to jump in and saying, like, why do I have to do this? It's not even the employee's fault. You know, they need to be put into position to succeed, which means we've got to serve them with good clients that want to partner with us, respect us, and share mutual core values so that this partnership, and that's why I'm kind of rambling here, but the partnership is the key piece.
Yeah.
I remember what I think I said on episode 1. I am not a goddamn supplier. I am your strategic partner helping you grow your business and solving the digital challenges that you've asked me to solve. If you don't want to treat me as a partner, that says right away what you think of us. Oh, I'm just going to hire a supplier to do X. That's not what we're looking for in small business. We're looking for partnerships because
Yeah.
partnerships want to invest, partnerships want to grow, and partnerships don't look at the day in and day out as failures when performance isn't exactly great. They look at the long game, which is how do we solve this together? And I know that you're working in my best interest. And those are the clients, Christina, that you and I will die for, is the
Totally.
ones that just simply give you that respect.
Yeah. Oh my God, I have so many stories and examples. On your last point in terms of trust and clients and that piece, I had an example just this week. A great client. They've been a client of ours since 2019. We handle kind of PR and digital and website for them. Started off as a website contract, nice project. Went, oh, I like these people. Okay, let's carry on. Let's do some more stuff. We had a task, I'm going to call it a task, that fell through the cracks, didn't get done. Should have gotten done because I have the relationship I have with this client, because we have trust, because we openly talk. I'd actually had lunch with this client earlier this week. And this issue came to light this morning, and I got to just have a really honest conversation with her. Yeah, this is what this is. And her email back was, I get it, no problem. I see you. Thank you. Right? It's the I'm a part of her team. She trusts me. She knows that I feel bad about it because I do, because I'm only human. She knows that next time I'll be better. She knows I'm watching now. But when you don't have that relationship, that can break you, right? Whether that missed task is the $20,000 whatever, or in this case, it was like a $500 something. It's like, it doesn't matter because they trust you and they know that you're part of the team, best interest at heart. So 100%. What I'll say on the onboarding side and the like red flag piece, our unlock, because again, it is hard to say no. It's hard to, I feel like, shout out to Ryan Kelly. He loves to talk about disqualifying leads.
Mm-hmm.
So disqualify leads, but sometimes they get through. Sometimes they get through because the project looks good, the whatever looks good. And so for us, the, let's call it the beige flags that have made it through, but we always try to confine them to the start and end date. So you mentioned like websites are great because there's a start and an end. So for us, it's like if Peter comes and goes like, ooh, this person kind of seems a little crazy, but this project seems great. And it's like, all right, well, we're not selling anything else but a website right now. Or we are not selling anything else but a 3-month PR strategy and execution. Like protect yourself, right? Like similar to, we had the conversation last time about protect yourself with staff, 3-month probationary period, 6-month probationary period. The same thing with a client. So our unlock there, when we still have red flags, hopefully you've disqualified them, some beige flags. Now it's all right, let's date. Let's see how this project goes. We had one I think it was last year, probably 2 years in the making, similar web dev project. We got the lead. It was like they wanted all these different things. Karen, Peter, and I sat down at the leadership table and said, let's just take the website and like just see how this goes. It was a shit show. It was an
Yeah.
absolute shit show.
But there's an end date.
But there was an end date.
Yeah.
And at that end date, they brought us another project, lucrative, would have been great, but already saw red flags in it and went, you know what? We've done this together. That was great. We think that probably you need to engage someone different on this one. Here's some things we noticed and what you can pass on to them and what you need. Because it's like, it's not me, it's you in a breakup.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not what you need. And this goes back to values alignment and how we work. We were not compatible. And so we said no to a $25,000 website project, which was the next in line, because it was hell getting through that first stage. And thank God we didn't do that they wanted everything in the one contract and let's go. And we were smart enough to just say, let's start with one. And then once we get to a point where we feel like we can have capacity to do more, we'll bring it on. And so that was the lifesaver, and still is. I still do that. I think there's even been a few PR contracts that have come my way that I've said, let's start with a strategy. Let's start with 3 months. And again, if they can't say yes to that, they're not my client anyways, because I'm not doing PR willy-nilly for someone. I need to have a plan in place. And if they don't want to have a plan in place, then here's the number to some Joe Blow freelancer that will shoot from the hip and do tactics, if that's just what all you want.
One thing that comes to mind for me, even though we're op-centric people, is shout out to Kevin Hanlon at Sandler. But anybody who's ever gone through Sandler training and what Kevin tries to teach, at least I was in his cohort and went through, is really about qualifying opportunities and getting the right information, but it's also challenging the person to get the right information and seeing how they reply. And one thing he says vividly in some of his sessions is just like, there are negative reversals or whatever that you will do to steer the conversation where you need it to be, and you actually have to watch the person more so than what they say, because that will tell you what you need to know. And just tying it back to that is, again, it's you need to assess. It's not about the opportunity or even the customer that's in front of you. Is the personality that you're working with going to jive with what you can do? Because if they're not saying the right things, if they're not engaged with you, if they're combative, like if somebody's combative in a discovery call or even a proposal meeting, why are you going to pursue to try to close them? Like, again, it's like talking to your ex-girlfriend or your ex-husband and saying, let's give this another kick at the can, but you already knew you hated each other before you even started trying to do it again.
Let's
Like,
have a baby to fix everything.
yeah. And then you wonder why they get divorced and now the kid doesn't have a set of parents because you went in it for the wrong reasons. So you're absolutely right. It's the same thing. You're building a baby. You laugh, but you are your website project, your marketing strategy. It's the baby. You've got to work as a team to grow this child, which is this project. So you've got to be on board. You've got to complement each other. You've got to pull your weight. And if not, it will demoralize and it will suck the life out of you, and it will suck the life out of your key team members that are vital to your success. And then, hey, let's take it another step further. We're talking about saying no in the best interest of the agency, but let's talk about team members for a reason. We have a duty in leadership to protect our team members. So protecting also means the type of opportunities we hope to bring to them so that they can put their best foot forward. So they will not be maliciously bastardized verbally or attacked every day and so forth. And how many of us have had those where every email is spewing and the client calls and shouts at you and so on. Now, again, people that are experienced, people that maybe have some tougher skin and have some miles on them, they know how to navigate that. But let's say your project manager, who you and I say is the most key person in the ops department, let's say they're new. Let's say they maybe have 1 year experience out of college, which many of us are looking for those lower hanging employees because of the potential to grow versus getting someone that has 25 years of bad traits. But they don't have that. They're as smooth as a baby's bottom. They don't have the experience to be able to navigate negativity.
Yeah.
So, think about somebody like that. They're trying, they're excited, they're energized. Hi, I'm Emily. And then they just get vomited at. And then Emily just goes spirals. And then all of a sudden comes to Christina and says, I can't do this. I can't handle the pressure. Well, part of that is that the person, like I said, is the person not capable of their role? That's one thing you have to figure out. The other thing is, did we bring a bad opportunity, which we knew never had a chance to be positive for the partnership? And that is just so important with this because, again, we cannot bring toxicity into our agencies when we have the control to say control and ability to say no. And I will share with you because I think we should share some more stories to wrap up this podcast because that's where the humor can come in. I got some funny ones. But the key thing here is once you say no one time, And then no matter what the response you get, F you, go to hell, or thank you so much, I understand, or okay, bye. You will have such an empowering feeling to you saying, this is okay to do. And now I am the driver of my opportunity. I am the driver of my agency, and I can be selective. And selective doesn't mean just picking and choosing. Selective means I'm bringing stuff into my house, which allows me to be comfortable and to succeed versus something that's going to, again, you would never bring a stranger into your house and screw up the most comfortable dynamic of your home. So why would you do it with your agency?
No, it's true. And I will say that sometimes the good apples go bad. Like, I think that
Yes.
is the other piece. And I mean, you and I have talked about this before. Maybe we've talked about it on here, but you need to find your champion. And sometimes the champion leaves, and then you need to find a new champion. But I'll go back to this example again with Emily. Was a great client, had a great champion there who has since moved on to another company where we have a contract now there too, because that was our person. That was someone value aligned with us. That was someone that we got it, we understood it. Now the person that has taken on this, there isn't a values alignment. And so there comes this place too in, I don't know if you can call it the renewal cycle or the whatever it is cycle of projects. Now you also need to be at a place where you can say, well, it was yes for a while, but now maybe it is a no now. And here's what I need to make it a yes. And if you can't deliver on those things, then maybe this is the end of the road. So again, for me, it's like you'll know your champion up front in terms of the sales cycle, the onboarding. But keep in mind, sometimes that champion changes. This is a lesson I'm still learning. Re-onboard. There's a new person and you are now working with someone new. Hey, I'm going to spend 15 minutes at the next catch-up meeting. We're going to go through the CIPR onboarding deck. We're going to go through your contract to set you up for success in your new role so you know how, right? Easy to pump their tires. But now you're also getting to tell them about, like you said, these are my cultural values. And if you think they suck, then I need to understand that. Here's my expectations. I have a 24-hour response time. I, need this respected and that respected. The other thing that I've added to my onboarding deck since the Punta Cana, I should send you this, is I have this graphic of storming, forming, norming, that whole thing. And I feel like the last one's like adjourning or something, which really doesn't fit. I show that now. Like I show it, I bring it up on the screen and people are like, oh, that's cheesy. Because it's literally like a graphic of puzzle pieces and then like the puzzle pieces fighting each other. I'm like, we expect storming. We are forming a new team. I have respect for you. I have trust in you in this relationship that like if something is going sideways, you're going to hear from me. And I want us to be able to have a conversation like this about it. And I vice versa. If you see something going sideways or it's not to your expectation, I want you to come to me. I don't want you to sit on your hands. I don't want you to stew. I put that right in there.
Good.
Some people get so wrapped up in that slide. They're like, this is so cool. Yeah, we're forming a team. Some, the eye roll, the express, okay, yeah, next slide. You start to know too. But like I put it out there first thing. I value being able to come to the table, have conversations. Maybe we disagree, maybe we agree, but like that's what you should expect from me.
Love it. And again, I love what you said. You put your cards on the table. Now it's their job to put their cards down, and that will tell you everything you need to know. And again, to navigate those situations, whether it's in sales prospecting, existing customers coming up for renewal, or a project that's going, or a contract that's going bad in the middle that has no hope to turn it around. Again, got to protect your integrity, got to protect your business, and also nobody is allowed, no matter what they're paying you. And this is maybe more of a feeling than reality, but nobody's allowed to come into your backyard and bully you with what you've made. Again, they need you. They're asking for you to solve their problem.
Yeah.
So remember where I'm saying that is, remember your worth. Your worth is that you're the one that's needed, right? And you don't necessarily, even though you need them, which means growth or improvement, um, you don't need to just comply with everything. Um, you know, the client doesn't dictate everything. Like I said earlier, it's a mutual relationship. It's a mutual partnership. Yes, there's money being shared back in one way, but what they're getting is premium value of an output, which is what they need. And again, respect is everything.
Yeah.
It is everything. And if you don't feel respected in this discovery process, if you don't feel respected in the onboarding, if you don't feel respected managing the project, then you need to assess, is it a problem internally? Is it a problem with the external customer? Can it be solved, or is it a lost cause? And how do you have to cut? And maybe what would be beneficial is to share. I'll share an example with you, and this isn't exactly a humorous one, but this was a big lesson for me when I was younger. When I say younger, I'm talking back to my early days. I'm talking maybe when I was like 26, like 2 or 3 years into working at Commandex. So I was project manager. Obviously, Peter's my boss, and we had a client. It was a tradesperson, and we were working to build a website project. And they had a very unique idea for kind of what they wanted on the homepage banner. And we were trying at the time to massage things with Photoshop and manipulate and all the nonsense we used to do in the early days. But I had a project manager at the company that was working. He was a nice man, and he was working with me, and we got along well. Well, the owner of the business that he on purpose was trying to keep away because gruff and uneducated in what we do
Right.
and so forth, decided to call and was frustrated with me. Why is my project not done? I had never talked to this guy. Why is my project not done? What the hell are you guys doing? Blah, 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 this. And I'm giving him answers back and so forth. And Peter can tell, he walks past my office and he can tell things are getting heated. And he pops in, he goes, "You okay?" And I go, "No." Again, I'm a kid.
Right.
And he goes, "Put him on speaker." And what he didn't know is Peter was in the room. And the guy started to get more and more aggressive with me. And he got to the point where he's like, you fucking guys don't know this and that and fucking this and blah blah blah. And Peter jumped right, and he put his hand on my wrist and kind of pushed me to the side. He said, "No." He said, "Excuse me, I'm Peter Jesnewski. I'm the owner of WSI Commandex. You will not talk to any of my employees in that tone and attitude. I will be refunding your deposit, and we are canceling your project immediately. Goodbye," and hung up on him. And the project manager called back a short time later apologizing and that this was not at all what should have happened, and he will make sure that this person is never engaged. So we calmed down, and we ended up finalizing that project, because again, the way that person had the character and respect to call and own up to it. But it was such a why I'm sharing this story and why I think it's important. It was such a move by Peter to show me, even though I was one of his key guys in that dynamic, that I was protected, that when I needed my boss, it wasn't even a question. He was willing to refund thousands of dollars because that person disrespected me and disrespected the agency. And that's why sometimes you have to make decisions. Now that's an aggressive on demand one that he felt he needed to do, but it showed me so much respect that he had my back. And that's what we're saying about the employees of needing to know that ops managers or agency owners will do the dirty work that's necessary, because what he showed me was, Mike, it's not all about the money, man. My job is taking care of you because that's not right. And again, as a basically a child in the industry at that time, it was just such a huge moment for me of that next step of, one, now I've dealt with something like this. Holy cow, this could happen.
Right.
But number two is when in those moments of, oh shit, I had a mentor and I had an ownership that would take my back, unwavering, to make sure that I wasn't going to crumble. And I owe a lot to Peter for that. And that's one of those memories that I hold on to in my years with him, of what he was willing to do. It was a huge power play move. Now, I want to tell you a funny one, if you don't mind.
Of
So
course.
this one's hilarious. This is a prospecting one. So back in the day, my Peter used to go to Europe a lot. He still does, but he used to go quite frequently because he had a business partner there years and years and years ago. And so he would be gone, and so Peter would bump his sales opportunities in front of me. He said, "Mike, this guy might call, and this guy's going to come in out. Just take care of him, figure it out, and sell him something." So some guy comes in, and he comes in on a Friday, and I can tell as soon as he comes in, something's off. There's something odd about this man. He doesn't want to sit in the boardroom. He wants to sit in my office. Okay, so here's your chair on the other side of my desk. Here's me and whatever else. The conversation goes, I can tell that he's a lunatic. I'm not even joking. I'm not trying to find like there is something mentally wrong with him. Conspiracy theories between the U.S. and Canada. The president of the United States is and this is not today's United States. I'm talking, 10 years ago, whatever, whoever was in power, blah blah blah. But he is convinced that people are spying on us and this and that, and he's built this coalition to combat this and that. And I'm sitting there going, this dude's got tinfoil on his head. Like he thinks that there's radioactive waves coming from Mars. I'm getting more and more uncomfortable. So right away in my head, I'm like, no. Well, doesn't he decide in a moment of emphatic emotion that he basically jumps my desk and he brings the chair to my side? He straddles his chair and he's face to face talking to me. And right away, like I'm like, this is uncomfortable. And then I'm like, dude, you're in my personal space. And then next, I'm like, this is my fucking office. Like, what are you doing? So I had a couple team members looking out from my office. The door's closed, and they can hear this heated conversation. And literally, one of my team members was like, "You okay?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm all right." But like, my point was right away. I said like, "Okay, thank you very much, blah blah this and that and whatever else, and we'll be in touch." And I sent my Peter an email saying this is a stage 4 lunatic. Absolutely not. Peter said, do whatever you have to do. And I said right away, thank you, but no thank you. Have a nice day. So my point of that story, even though I had a Martian trying to tell me that I was going to get abducted by aliens, is you do not need to take every opportunity. That man literally threatened my personal space. I don't care if he said he had $50,000 to spend at the time. He was not going to get 1% of my time or 1% of a proposal, because that is not the type of person that should be brought into my agency.
Oh, Mike, I got a good one. You reminded me of like a
Go
wild
for it.
prospect.
Go for
So
it.
this is a real story. So everyone sit down, grab your hot chocolate, gather round, children. Gather round.
Campfire stories with Christina.
So Peter gets a call from what sounded like a kid, young guy. I have this woman. She's very like secretive about her identity, but she really needs public relations. And um, can you meet? We found you online. And I'm like, all right, the SEO's working. We found you online. We'd love to meet. Peter's like, okay, yeah, like I'll meet you. Goes to meet this kid. The lady in question doesn't show. Okay, he's texting her. She can't make it. And then it's oh my God, she's been jumped at the gas station and robbed. So she's not gonna be able to make it today. And Peter, my Peter, your Peter too, these lovely Polish men with their big hearts and their warmness. Oh, of course. Oh my God, is she okay? They have a conversation about PR. This kid now starts to get into, look, she's, escaped a really bad situation. She wants to kind of bring media towards it. She wants to do it in a safe way, blah, blah, blah. Okay, interesting. Still enough there to be interested. Anyways, fast forward a bit. She wants to meet with us now. Thank God Peter had the sense to go, you know what? This is a weird one. She wants me to meet her at her home.
Oh no.
Maybe you need to come. Like, let's have a force of numbers. I'm fully invested in this story already. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's get the business suits on. Let's roll up. The Pilarskis are going to roll up.
Did you wear a blue pantsuit?
I did wear a blue pantsuit. Powerful, trust. So by this point that we're rolling up, we have found out in these couple weeks her name. And so her name is Princess someone. I will leave this, whatever. We've Googled. It is a real person. It is a real situation. It was a princess from Abu Dhabi who was kind of the black sheep of the family, left, whatever. So the team is well aware. People are like screenshotting photos for me, like this is what she should look like. So I've got this picture. I knock on the door. It's dark inside. Dark. Opens the door. Like not being dramatic. Like the door just like opens. This woman steps out, is wearing what I will describe as like maybe a cape, a flowing witchy outfit, smiles at us. Mike, this woman had fangs. She had her teeth sharpened into fangs.
Oh.
She had, the tongue, the tongue situation. Hey, I am all for, I've got some tattoos. My ears are pierced. So just whatever. You want a body mod. So she's like, hello. Immediately, I like put my hand down to reach for Peter's, like subtly, like, what the fuck are we doing? She said, come into my home. He's in the door. He's like, oh yeah, this is gonna be the okay. And I'm like, we should walk. She sits us down at her table. Mike, I kid you not, there is $1,500, $100 bills just on the table, 15 of them across the table. We're sitting on one side of her table. She's sitting on the other side. She's got cash money on the table. I mean, like 1,500, not really a lot for the Princess of Abu Dhabi. She goes in. We were there for 2 hours because she just got into storytelling. She was telling us the whole story about her Netflix special that's going to come out, about all of the things, about this and that and the other. We're listening because at this point now, I'm like, this is a good story. Thank goodness we have a podcast that I can now tell to. End of the conversation. She goes, well, you'll see $1,500 here. I'd like you to take this money in good faith and let's see what we can do with it. Peter takes that 1,500. We walk out the room.
Of
and
course he did.
I follow up and say, you've given us a lot to go on. A lot of storytelling happened. I need to now talk as a responsible agency and PR person that's going to put your story out there. I need to be in touch with your lawyers. So I'm fully aware of what can be said, what can't be said, that we're legally protected. Don't hear from her. Don't hear from her. Don't hear from her. Then 2 weeks later, hear from her with a document from the lawyers. If you go into like who created this document, lawdepot.com. So, you know what? The happy ending here was we got $1,500 cash just for sitting to listen to this lady for 2 hours, which was worth the time. But like, don't ever be desperate enough to do.
That's a great speaking engagement. Christ. So that's how Peter's winning on the speaking engagements. He's going to mentally unstable people's homes that decide to cut their tongues in half, and he's just getting cash.
It was
Peter Pilarski, well, I got you figured out, pal. Here in the Maritimes. Bullshit.
But like, to your point, when you know, and like collect a great prospecting story because they're great party tricks. Everyone loves like,
oh, they're amazing.
When we get a new team member, there is always someone who's like, tell them the princess story, right? It's like the emails that you get, like, I am the prince of whatever, I will send you $2 billion. This was the same. Like, she was promising you're going to have you're not even going to need any other clients because I'm going to take care of you. I'm the Princess of Abu Dhabi. I'm still waiting for the Netflix special. Hasn't come out yet, but I will let everyone know.
What year was this discovery engagement?
Oh God, a few years ago now.
Take the sarcasm, take the humor out of it. Like, going back to what the reality is, it's like red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Do not meet people in their home. Do not meet a prospect at a Tim Hortons. If they say let's meet at a Tim Hortons in a food court in the middle of the mall, that's not a viable opportunity. No. Assess if they ask you to come to their office, assess what that office is. When you walk in and there's garbage everywhere and the guy's sitting on a phone book in the corner, I've been to one of those. It was like a distribution place where they did some sort of manufacturing base. Everything comes from China and they somehow distribute it here. But like, the guy pulled me into a broom closet to have a meeting, and I'm literally between papers and piles and stuff. And guess what? He's like, I got $300 to market. By the way, your snake tongue lady with Vampiro fangs, man, that meeting needed an AI transcriber, eh? Holy shit.
Fuck. Oh, I wish, because
it would have made the story so much funnier because you really would have had it.
Much. She's crying. At one point, honestly, she was a master because at one point I had tears in my eyes, right? She's telling this tortured story of it, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too with that is, talk about those red flags, if you will. People that have an idea, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful, because look, the world has been built on people with ideas, and then they get funding and they come up with concepts, but everybody thinks they've got a great idea. If somebody comes into your digital marketing agency, I got an idea, you need to debunk that idea right away, because you need to understand the validity of it, because they don't have money, they don't have backing, They typically don't have the full concept mapped out. They're coming to you with the idea and they think you can do it for X, Y, and Z, or they sit there and say, oh, money's not an option. And then you have to debunk it. You need to be working with professional businesses or people that can honestly tell you, again, what is the challenge, the health of the business, how much of what is their gross revenue for the last year. Do you know what your marketing budget should be? Like, again, I'm going to reference Kevin at Sandler. This is Sandler 101, but it is so important even at a baseline because those things have to be vetted. And if you get red flags in that first third, that's why even Kevin and we adopt and so you the first discovery call with an opportunity is 30 minutes. And you don't even talk about what you're going to build and what you're going to do. Is it a good fit and do we jive? Tell me why you're here. And again, what does Kevin say? The four things. What's the challenge? How immediate is it? Do they have the budget and are they a good fit? Whatever the four are. But those are the only four things that you have to try to figure out in that first 30. And if you can't figure those out, if they don't give it to you, then you do not give them that second discovery call where you're really understanding the business at a more elaborate clip to be able to produce a proposal. You have to stick to that because everybody thinks they have something to sell and they want marketers to market it for them. They don't understand what goes into it between cost and all the things around it that are necessary to allow it to work just because they have a vision. We are not there to simply try to take a vision into reality. We need to have some meat on the bone to take it. So again, like your snake lady, she has an idea whether it's fabricated or not. There's no reality to anything she said. And what if she would have put $10,000 at the table, which nobody would turn down $10,000 cash, but then you're on the hook for trying to produce something for someone who is not even real, not even ethical, transparent or whatever. Somebody that has a screw loose, unfortunately. And again, you don't need that on your books because your team will never be able to work with that type of personality. And again, we see those, hey, Christina, way more than you think. Those are not just the anomalies. You get those actually quite a bit.
We talk about, and this is a good, I feel like, little trigger, is we work with mature businesses. And we stopped putting, like, I think we went through a phase where it's like, you must be in business for 5 years or more to, right? Mm-hmm. But for us, you have some business owners who are mature, who maybe have been around the block. This is a second business. This is a whatever. You also have the other side where someone's run a business for 10 years and they couldn't find their way out of a shoebox. So we talk a lot in the sales cycle, but then also as I groom them and go through that on my mature. And then the other kind of trigger words that we're listening for is expense versus investment. So we talk a lot about your marketing being an investment, your public relations being an investment. If they're talking about expenses and budget lines and that's all they're focused on, to us, that's the other, whether we're already in a relationship or we're in the sales cycle, if all of a sudden the language starts being about expenses as opposed to investment, and there's nuance there, of course, but that's something that we are all looking for because I want someone who knows that they're investing in us.
Oh, I love that so much. It's high five, lady from Alberta to Ontario. I couldn't agree more. You are investing in your business. If you treat this as a cost, you shouldn't even be at the table talking to us because if this is a cost to you, you're not looking at it the right way of why you're doing it. And again, you're not fairly allowing us to do what we do best if that's your mindset.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. And that comes down to education. That comes down to process that you have, whether it's onboarding, whether it's discovery, whether it's proposal. Like for us, for example, I tell people we're an education first agency, and they say, "What the hell does that mean?" And what I really don't mean is not educating people so they can take it and do it from us. But my responsibility as in business development, ops management, and everything I am is I have to educate the customer enough to get them on board with what I'm selling, what I can facilitate, and where I can take them. I am the driver of their engine of where they need to go.
Yeah.
So I need to get them to a level that they can understand what I'm talking about, break down the wall for them, of their insecurities of not knowing what we do or where's the money going. Many people, Christina, you agree, come to us. They've been burned by 15 other agencies.
Right.
You're all the same. You all talk that you're going to get me first page rankings and 5 times results, and you all just take my money. So people come to us very jaded. So we have to kind of reset and say, get out of sales mode and get into listening and education mode, because you got to get that person's shoulders to drop and you got to get them to lean in.
Yeah.
It's leaning in to say they're invested and they're energized to want to invest.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said, and that's how we can help them understand that it's not an expense over an investment. Is we have to paint the picture of the potential of where we can help them,
Yeah.
because that we have to keep them excited, and that's the way they'll want to collaborate with us, because again, they're coming to us with a problem. They're already in the shits. Their sales funnel is already not predictable. They may be just trying to keep the lights on, God forbid, even though they're telling you everything is great. They have pain. That's the only reason they're coming to us, is because they have pain and they know we can solve it. No different than you hiring a roofer because the pain is your roof is leaking. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. So how do you break that door down to have because what we need to do is we need to establish trust early, right? We don't have 6 months to say, Christina, I trust you, you're my person. You
Right.
need to establish trust from the first meeting, and then every subsequent meeting, whether it's a 3-step process to close and then a 2-step process to onboard. That trust has to be ramped up and increasing with every meeting, so that you keep the momentum going, because you said something so good at the beginning of this and we didn't sit on it or focus on it. And what you said was, with regards to those, they are going to get lost very quickly after Peter Pilarski woos them with the sales process. They're excited. Where do I sign? Because it's all about the potential.
Yeah.
But then Christina's the reality person saying, this is the shit that has to be done to actually make it work. But let's say Christina doesn't get to that, Jimmy customer for 3 weeks for onboarding. They have forgotten everything Peter pitched. They have forgotten everything they signed. So to your point, regurgitating what they signed is absolutely a first step. But also, you need to establish and continue that momentum, because if 3, 4 weeks gone by, they come in, they're kind of excited, but they don't even know what the hell they signed. So
Yeah.
then Christina's like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And they're like, well, why am I not getting SEO? Like you said earlier, because they don't even know what they bought, because we don't retain anything anymore. They don't bring the proposal and the contract to the first meeting to say,
Yeah.
what does this mean? What does that mean? So, I was so impressed with your CIPR presentation those 2 years ago, probably why we hit it off, even though, again, the joke is we've only seen each other 3 or 4 times. But I was so impressed because I don't know what your fulfillment is at that time. I don't know whether it was great or a dumpster fire, but your onboarding process and your sales process, I was sitting there writing notes down saying, holy shit, because you had figured out that process. And no wonder your customers are receptive to you and Peter, because you figured that piece out. Now, the other pieces, maybe they're still being figured out, but that piece, you got that shit tight, and you're building an experience for your client. And that's ultimately what you need them to pay. They're paying for the value is you. The value is the experience with CIPR, WSI Commandex, whatever agency it is.
Yeah.
And that's how you negate quote, cost, and expense. You have to build an experience that, like you said, oh my God, I am so happy I signed on with Christina. These people are taking care of us. Christina, you're my person.
Yeah.
That is the nurturing of relationship that allows sustainability and recurring revenue to continue to go, versus, look, we all take on the projects that we say, great, it's money in and goodbye. But to be honest with you, those don't move the needle. They're just an influx of cash to solve a month or a day. What
Yeah.
we need is clients that say, Christina, oh, you want $3,000 a month? No problem. Oh, we're successful. You want to go to 4,500? No problem. Oh, Christina, we asking for you for more. We're going to go to 6,000. No problem. That's what we need, because that
Yeah.
recurring income and the ability to upsell with relationships that we are already have trust with are the easiest sells for us, versus Jimmy on the street that comes in and we got to start that all over again.
Yeah.
So you have to build that.
It's true.
Can I tell
Um,
you? Can I tell you another quick story?
yeah, tell me a story. I feel like we should end because we like threatened that we were going to fire clients in this call. I feel like we should end with good client firing stories too. But tell your first story.
Yeah, so okay, I'll give you a firing client. I'll give you two quick firing. These aren't long-winded stories. The first one came down to a customer that we just had for a long time on an old for the people that remember Developer OBSs, built a Developer OBS CMS from way back in the day. Client was with us. The person was just a difficult personality, and I don't think at all that the person was malicious. I think
Yeah.
it was just how they're wired, and probably like an engineer or a very technical database driven person, and just was combative. And I would combat this guy all the time, not even on stuff on his website. The website stuff was easy. He would battle me about email and incoming and outgoing, and stuff isn't happening, this and that, and I need this and blah blah blah. And it just became, we were tracking time, seeing how much time went into dealing with this support stuff that wasn't even support stuff, and so forth. And my Peter could see that I was just getting so frustrated with dealing with this all the time. We're not making any money on this. We're just in. And he goes, "What's the value of the customer?" And I
Yeah.
said, "The customer." He says, spend $600 a year on hosting." He goes, "That's it." He said he bought a maintenance package 4 years ago, and he's still bleeding it out. He goes, "It's time to let him go." He goes, "It's not worth your pain, and we're never going to get anything else out of him, no matter if he's a nice person or not." So I sent him the email saying, "Thank you, but we can no longer support you, and in the shelf life of your website doesn't comply with our hosting server. So I'll package everything up for you for free, but you're going to have to go." And the person was receptive. The point of that story is, I cannot tell you how my stress went down by just eliminating this client from my book of business. Because what I realized was indirectly, he was killing me,
Yeah.
killing me, demoralizing me, sucking the life out of me, even if he had good intentions. But it was not worth our time to keep him, because again, if he was a $50,000 a year client, okay, you might buckle up, man. But for $600, we'll go find $600 elsewhere. So that was one of the first tipping points of saying no and saying you're fired. And again, we've never fired people, but we fired this one. It was low risk, and it was one of the. And then what that did was Peter said, "Well, that wasn't that bad." No, it wasn't. Who else should we put on the chopping block? And we made about 5 other moves of the same thing, very low hanging fruit, nothing for our business, and we let them go. None of them were upset,
Mm.
and you just felt this cleanse in the client pool of what we were doing. Um, so that's one quick story of saying, again, you got to look at the value of the customer. If the value is not there, you just got to have an honest reflection saying it's time to go, and your company will not go, your agency will not go bankrupt because of that. Okay. Another firing, and this one's a little more disastrous, is I was working actually with a client out in Western Canada, out in BC. Got an opportunity through someone who used to send us business. And I got on the first call with them, and I had prepared. And obviously, in those days, I wasn't as prepared as I am now, but I had enough to be able to navigate my kickoff process. And we're doing this all through conference call and screen share.
Yeah.
And 20 minutes into the meeting, I'm going through my IBA document, and the owner of the business decides to pop in. And I had been told that the owner was volatile,
Oh, good.
and he just shuts everybody up, like literally like, shh, and he just comes at me. "Mike, if I asked you about our business, how would you talk about our business?" And I'm fumbling for a minute because I'm on the spot and off guard. And I say, "Well, sir, respectfully, I can't talk about your business at a finite level yet. I'm 20 minutes into knowing you guys. And that's the purpose here, is I have to get up to speed so that I
Right.
can produce this project for you. So you don't know our business.
Oh,
That's concerning, Mike." So he interrogated me and attacked me for over 30 to 40 minutes. And I got through it. It was very stressful. I got through it. And then the person that brought me the job, all apologetic and this and that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be a fun battle. But again, the project's on the books.
right.
And then they called, and then the intermediary called me a couple of days later and said, hey, a month later, because the project was stalled, and like, "Hey, the owner doesn't think you're capable or qualified to run this project." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" I'm like, "Yeah, he thinks that you got hired yesterday and you don't know what the hell you're doing." And I had been at the agency like over 8, 9 years. I put out hundreds of projects. Again, I'm not the best at anything, but I know what I'm doing. And right away there, I said, "Okay." And she goes, "Well, what are we going to do about that?" And I said, "We're going to refund you the deposit you gave us. And you could tell the client politely that I will not be working for them, and thank you." So I fired them on the spot with my Peter's permission,
Yeah.
and we had to basically refund the money. It was thousands of dollars, but the toxicity alone, because again, what I'm going back to is the gentleman disrespected me and didn't even give me a chance to show the value that we could bring to their business, and he had drawn those conclusions. Not a good fit. I will never win with him. He will never respect me. It is
No.
not worth the money that we sold it for. Goodbye. And again, the stress that came off my body and my heart, knowing that that went away, it was not at all like I had failed. It was like, this is not a good fit. I didn't know it when we signed it. The
Yeah.
person that I signed it with was a great person. I really enjoyed the prospecting process with them. But this gentleman came in and the personalities clashed. And I had to identify right away, not a good fit, not healthy to bring into our dynamic. Because if he's challenging me and I'm the most intermediate employee, and what happens when I pass it down to some of the junior resources?
Yeah.
Is he going to talk like that to a 23-year-old kid that's just trying to do their job at the best level possible? No.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that one sucked, but that's another one from my history. Now, do you have a
I
funnier one that we can talk about firing somebody?
don't
Because
know if
mine are really
firing's
funny.
I don't know if firing's funny. I feel like I have like the big meaty hope story. I'll end with that one. Your last story reminds me of
Oh,
not when I was agency. So like picture early 2000s Christina, kid, like very much a kid, like very much a kid.
how old were you have been in the early 2000s? Just humor me.
I
Roughly.
graduated I graduated '04. So like 19. I probably was 19 in this job.
Wow.
So I'm
Young chicken.
So I'm on a call with, so, okay, back up. I worked for TC Energy, it was TransCanada Pipelines at the time.
Yep.
Summer student that had, the overachiever I am, had gotten herself a part-time job during university, doing whatever. One of my jobs was the landowner helpline. So when someone in the middle of nowhere has an issue, they call the landowner helpline, right? They've got a meter station or whatever on their property. They got a pump jack. Well, who do they talk to when they call? They talk to 19-year-old Christina Ronsonen, who I don't know anything about oil and gas. I've spent one summer there. Like, I'm in charge of making sure the files are okay. And at one point I was like in charge of paying these people, but like, anyways, this guy gets on the phone and just starts shitting all over me, right? Like you can tell a lot about a person when they don't even know who you are, just shits all over. And I'm, de-escalating him, having Kay tell me what this, let me look up your file. I had enough tools to, and he pulls who are you? Why are
Oh,
you answering the phone? I want to talk to a man.
oh no.
So 19-year-old Christina, just so fired up at this. Now I'm fired up.
Yeah.
I say to him, well, I'm sorry, sir, but there is no man here who wants to talk to you. So you're going to have to talk to me, or we're going to have to end this call. At that moment, my boss at the time, shout out to John Hunt, who really believed in a 19-year-old that she could handle these calls. I was in a cubicle like right outside his office. He comes out. Now he's watching over my cubicle wall because he's like us. He's got the snacks and he's like, I want to hear how this goes. That guy, immediate de-escalation because he knows he's not going anywhere else. Talking to him, blah, blah, blah. Get off the call. At this point, John's got a few of his, and they're all applauding. Like they're just
Yep.
clapping. They're standing there clapping.
Yep.
And it's like, you got to stand your ground, right? Like, especially in ops, you are like, I love the story about your Peter standing up for you. I feel like I have a few of those stories too, where it's like you heard even secondhand hearing from staff, I was in a meeting, this client shit all over this. It's like, all right, they're getting a call from me. Like
Yep.
in
Yep.
ops, your job is mom or dad.
Absolutely right. And I just want to make sure we don't miss what you just said. If there's a problem, if somebody decides that they want to be a tough guy or a tough gal on an email and stuff like that, pick up the phone. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another lesson that my Peter told me when I was younger, because I am an email guy. I'm not afraid of being on the phone at all. I'm not afraid of talking, but I like to put my words digitally because I think I articulate myself better. And then also it's in writing.
Yeah.
But somebody wants to get nasty, pick up the phone and see if they have the cojones to talk to you like that and whatever else. And also, it's very important that you draw the line in the sand as an ops manager of what is acceptable and what is not. One, you have, like I said, my Pete, you have to protect your team.
Yeah.
An Emily, a Karen, or whatever, they need to know in a moment of weakness, in a moment of disrespect, Christina or Peter have got my back, because that's retention of your team to know that my ops manager is a kick-ass gal and she's got my back in these moments of uncertainty. That is very important to employees if they want to look at their leadership and say, is it worth staying here? Because if they don't feel respected, they don't feel like they're protected in their own ways, then they will just go find somewhere else. And again, digital marketers are hard staff to find that are good people.
Yeah.
Number two with that, again, no client is allowed to disrespect us. It does not matter what amount of money they're spending. Money in does not dictate that you are better than us. If
Yeah.
you cannot have a civil conversation and talk as adults, then we need to draw those conclusions. And I'm sure you've done it too. I've had a couple where people start to shout at me for God knows whatever reason, whether I deserve it or not. And I say, excuse me, now you're being disrespectful, and I won't tolerate that. I am here to help you, and that is my only intention. So if
Yeah.
we're going to talk civilly. Otherwise, I'll end this conversation right now. And to your point, it's not about putting your foot down. It's being assertive in the sense of making sure you value your self worth as a person and in your role, because you're not allowed to be berated by somebody, whatever. This isn't your mom slapping you around for being an idiot.
No.
This isn't your husband saying, I'm disappointed with you, Christina, because you did something foolish. This is someone that you have a contract with to produce a product or an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to sit there and make you or any of your team members cry, or feel like they're small, because they're having a bad day or they think they're better than us. And that's not meant at all to be disrespectful to customers. And I am not painting customers as all being whats. But you must be able to assess that, because if that is what you're getting, then respectfully, those people have to go, because your mental health and the sanity of your operation and your time is not valued. And that's another key punchline. The value is us. If you don't respect us, then you'll never see the value.
It's true. I think for me, immeasurable, and this will lead into my firing story here, is
Oh, you got another one?
my like piece de resistance. My measure, I mean, we talk about that. There is enough stress in an ops job, in a regular job, in your life. If a
Yes.
simple call or a meeting with a client or having to do a deliverable or seeing a name in an inbox is giving you stress, is raising your blood pressure, is making your shoulders go up, and that is your sign, because life is short. We are not in the business of life and death.
No.
Right? It's like those to me are the signs of this client has got to go. There is no reason me or any of my team needs to deal with someone that is raising their stress and anxiety over stuff that is not mission critical life and death. Like that should be all right. Who has raised the temperature this month? And is it okay, disagreement, we worked through it? Is it okay, there were tight timelines? Or no, this is an asshole. And that needs to be something that an ops manager, has the checklist of and goes, if this is clearly raising the blood pressure over and over again, then it needs to be solved. So my story along this is we had a client, big client, like, I wish I could remember the math. 150 a year contract,
Wow.
probably. It was a
Mhm.
big client. Night,
Mhm.
like it was one of those sales processes too, where it's like, we can't turn this down. Red flag in the sales process, they talked about, and I don't want to say as a point of pride, maybe it was a warning, but they talked about how they had been through 7 agencies. So looking back, yikes. I mean, looking at myself, maybe oh, well, they found we could be the fit, right? Like you get a little bit like, we're the differentiator. We're gonna, anyways. So there was my red flag. We had a hell of a time trying to build trust with them. That was, they had been through onboarding.
Mhm.
Um, rounds of revision were always nightmares, always torture. And it wasn't rounds of revisions, here's some edits. It was similar to your story about guy calling you, are you an idiot? Like that was similar to us. Like, it's like, well, yeah, we're going to write the best we can, but like we send it to you because you are the subject matter expert.
Yes.
So again, I'm watching, obviously going through staff because everyone's anxiety is high. Had one project manager on it, and I thought, you know what, maybe there's a personality thing here. I'm like sitting in meetings. Sometimes the client is nice. Usually when I'm in there, things are okay. And I'm going, okay, let me switch it up. Let me put someone a little bit more senior on this file just to have the wherewithal to maybe conflict if that's where we're at. Same now stress with a senior member of the team, same issues, same everything. I get to then, we had them, it was their second year. They renew at the end of the year. So the December kind of timeline. We were going to be heading into a third year with them. And I said to Peter during the leadership meeting, I said, I don't have anyone who's willing to work on this file. I said, nor do I have any more capacity to deal with the calls that I'm getting because now it's on me. Now I'm dealing with their stress. So I contact their CEO. I said, look, can I have a conversation? And he's kind of removed from conversations, but not. He knows what's going on. Get on a call. He's sitting on the call. I'm there. And I say, look, Mark, we gotta have a tough conversation today, but like, I'm gonna have to let you know that I won't be looking to renew my contract with you. Shocked. This man was shocked because he's viewing it as I need him. He's giving me all this money. Shocked. And he said to me, well, why? What is and I said, our organizations we just don't align with our values. Our values are not aligned. And that is a tough pill to swallow. When you tell someone your values are not aligned with them, that is a long look in the mirror, right? like, like,
Oh, 100% it is. And again, it's not insulting, but that moment he's going to go back and reflect saying, whoa, somebody hasn't done that to me before. But again, they actually get more respect, whether they tell you or not. There's more respect for you because again, you've been honest with them and open with them. And
yeah,
how many people, I'll say this, maybe it's a little rough, not a lot of people have the balls to say that. Like
totally.
you're turning down a six-figure contract renewal because you know it's not in the best interest of your agency's health.
Yeah.
That's empowering because again, it's going to be very hard to recoup that money at a quick rate. But I'm sure your agency was so much better once that went away.
Well,
It's
and to your
just
point, like
yeah,
stress off. I was less stressed. The team. So now we're going into Christmas and break. My boss stood up for me. We
yeah,
get like the staff morale was high going into, and then January, it's like, for me as a business owner, it's like, ooh, I'm going into a harder time revenue wise. I've just cut this big one. You know what? That revenue made itself up in January immediately. Why? Because I had time to go
yes,
service the good clients and
yep,
we had a bunch of upsales. Peter had time because even though he doesn't have to deal with the client issue, he's still hearing about it.
yep,
He's still putting thought. All of a sudden, he also had a little bit of fire because he knows I got to make something up here. I got to keep the
yep,
troops busy. We
yep.
made it up immediately. Like there was no dip in the books. And so it's like, lesson, get rid of the stress, fire the person, be honest. It's not going to get any better. I tried for 2 years with this guy. 2 years, didn't get any better. Nothing changed. Move on and you'll be okay.
My Peter, you said something earlier when you said we're not really doing dire, life or death stuff. My Peter just always gives me wisdom in funny ways, but I hold on to it. And again, I'm always bouncing off the walls because I care as much as I do. And he looks at me with a smile, that Polish smile, and he goes, "Mike, we're not doing open heart surgery." And it stops me in my tracks because when I was younger, it's like, you don't understand, but I get what he's trying to give me in wisdom. He's saying, Mike, he goes, we're not on the operating table and I just nicked the artery to your heart and you got 30 seconds to bleed out because the surgeon's got to work his magic. It's the truth. We're building websites and digital marketing strategies. If something goes down, if the billing stops, if the website is broken, everything is fixable or can rebound. We are not doing open heart surgery. So There's no client that should put you in that spot to make you feel like you are. It's not that important. It is important, but not like that. It's not dire. We are not surgeons trying to solve people in seconds, whether life or death. We are building marketing machines to help people's businesses grow and solve challenges. So let's kind of set the reality to what it is.
Yeah.
Let's identify it. Let's articulate it. Let's reinforce it. Let's get through it, and let's build something kick-ass and successful together. And if you can find those people, then the fun part is then they talk to Peter Pilarski and they say, awesome, where do I sign? And
Exactly.
that's the fun of digital marketing, is when you get those type of people in your room, because they get it, they understand it, and they're already respecting what the potential they can get when they start investing in your agency.
It's true.
So, Christina, I would love to speak with you for another 2 hours, but you have hungry children. Emily does not have the bandwidth to edit 3 hour marathons. And so, yeah, so we're going to wrap this puppy up. I think maybe I'm going to hint that I think maybe our next topic should be EOS, because there's so many little nuggets in these first few. I think EOS is it's an absolute foundational element of CIPR and WSI Commandex and how we leverage it. So maybe we'll take it in the next one or the one after for sure. But on that note, because we sit here for therapy and don't really do anything, Christina, did we solve anything today?
Nope.
Okay, see you next week.
See you next week, buddy.
This angry ops guy just needs to unplug.
Here we go again.
I understand that the critical thinking is not always there, and it also drives me up the wall. So I understand.
See, this is my buttocks. This is my fist. This is the fist going up the buttocks, and now I'm a puppet.
God.
There you go. Hi, everybody. How are you?